everyone, welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. South Korea signed a major arms deal with Peru to export nearly 195 K2 tanks. This is set to become Korea's largest ever defense export deal with Latin America. Following a massive data breach at Coupang, South Korean police searched the headquarters of the e-commerce giant as they continue to track down the suspect behind the leak to check for possible lapses in Coupang security. U.S. President Donald Trump graded his administration high marks on the economy ahead of the Fed's decision on key interest rates, and as he prepares for a trip to Pennsylvania to highlight his efforts to bring down inflation. We begin this morning with South Korea's defense exports, which are now expanding into Latin America. Korea has sealed a landmark agreement with Peru to sell 195 K2 tanks, a deal that Seoul expects will become its largest ever defense export to the region, marking a milestone for the K2 tanks' global reach. Our Pyongyang starts us off.
South Korea is poised to make a significant breakthrough in the Latin American defense market after Peru agreed to procure nearly 200 units of Korean-made ground vehicles. According to the presidential office, the Peruvian army will receive 54 K2 main battle tanks and 141 wheeled armored vehicles under a comprehensive agreement signed with Korean defense firms and Peru's state-run enterprise. While final contract negotiations are still underway, officials say the deal is expected to become the largest Korean defense export to Latin America and the first entry of the K2 tank into the region. The K2 has already strengthened its international standing through multi-billion-dollar supply contracts with Poland and performance demonstrations across Europe. National security officials say the Peru deal represents a pivotal step towards expanding Seoul's global defense footprint.
K-Defense is laying the foundation to become one of the world's top 4 global defense powers. We are launching a presidential-level control tower to drive these efforts forward.
President Lee Jae-myung welcomed the development, expressing hope that the agreement will elevate bilateral defense cooperation and lead to a sustainable, mutually beneficial partnership. If the export proceeds smoothly, Seoul expects the deal to serve as a foothold for expanding Korean defense exports across the wider Latin American market. Pyongyang, Arirang News.
Police searched the headquarters of e-commerce giant Coupang Incorporated following a massive breach of personal information. A related committee looking into the case will summon Coupang founder and chairman Kim Bum-seok as a key witness for a hearing next Wednesday. Our Cha In-kyung has more.
Police searched the headquarters of e-commerce giant Coupang Incorporated on Tuesday over a massive breach of personal information that affected around 34 million people. The Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency's cyber investigation team sent 17 officers to the company's headquarters in southern Seoul to search for internal documents and records related to the breach. Police have reportedly been tracking down the suspect behind the leak to check for possible lapses in Coupang security after securing the Internet Protocol address and server logs that were used. There's a possibility that the search and seizure might take more than a day due to the amount of information stolen. The National Assembly Science, ICT, Broadcasting, and Communications Committee will summon Coupang founder and chairman Kim Bum-seok as a key witness at a hearing on December 17th into his company's massive personal data breach. A total of 10 people will be summoned for the hearing, including Coupang executives, Kim, CEO Park Dae-jun, and expert witnesses. Kim did not appear at a related inquiry held at the National Assembly on the 2nd and 3rd, so it is still uncertain whether he will attend the upcoming hearing. Meanwhile, Daeryun, a South Korean law firm, has officially announced plans to file a lawsuit against Coupang in a U.S. federal court along with its U.S. branch, SJKP, during a press conference held in New York City on Monday local time. The firm said it has already secured over 200 plaintiffs and intends to pursue simultaneous litigation in both South Korea and the United States. Cha In-kyung, Arirang News.
And over in the United States, President Donald Trump has given himself a high grade for the country's economy under his second administration. The remarks come as the U.S. leader is preparing a trip to Pennsylvania to highlight his efforts to bring down inflation and ahead of the central bank's decision on interest rates. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump has given the U.S. economy under his second administration what he calls an A+++++ grade as he prepares for a trip to Pennsylvania to highlight his efforts to bring down inflation. The comments came during an interview with Politico on Monday, where Trump defended his record on prices and pushed back against concerns from some supporters who believe the cost of goods remains too high. Trump argued that he inherited what he described as a total mess, claiming prices were already at historic highs when he took office. He insisted that costs are now easing, pointing specifically to energy prices. The remarks come as the president heads to Scranton, Pennsylvania on Tuesday for an event focused on affordability, an issue central to his 2024 campaign. Trump won the election on promises to bring relief to households struggling with rising expenses, yet his administration has faced ongoing frustration from Americans who say that many prices remain elevated. Trump has blamed the Biden administration for the high costs and has dismissed Democratic arguments on affordability as a hoax and a con job. Trump has attempted to curb prices in part by removing tariffs on a range of products in recent months, a move officials say is aimed at lowering costs for consumers. The comments also come as the U.S. Fed is set to make its last rate decision of 2025. As Trump travels to Pennsylvania, the White House is expected to continue framing inflation and affordability as top priorities, even as public opinion shows divided views on the pace of improvement. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And continuing with the U.S. economy, the Fed is now confronting a tough decision on interest rates. With the final meeting of the year slated for Wednesday, eyes are now on the central bank's decision as many expect to see a third interest rate cut. For more on this, we're joined today by Professor Song Soo-young, professor at the College of Business and Economics at Cheongwon University. Professor Song, thanks for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and good morning to you.
So, although the Fed is so divided, markets are expecting a rate cut, right? Why is the U.S. Central Bank likely to lower rates?
In the past several months, the U.S. has been shut down because of the conflict in the National Assembly. However, recent release of the job openings and the labor turnover by the Labor Department has shown that clearly the U.S. job market is not collapsing, but clearly it is losing steam. So it means that they need to decrease the federal funds rate by as much as 25 basis points. So to that regards, the concern has been put on some labor side. And also in details, the quit rate and the vacancy rate has been steady and remained very low. And even though the job market is slightly recovering in October and November, but still it is job market is weak. Therefore, I guess most likely the Federal Reserve Board would like to decrease the interest rate this time by 25 basis points.
I see. And how might the Fed's decision impact the Korean economy and Korea's own decision on its interest rates?
Actually, our Korean economy has been dependent much on some international trade, particularly the export to the United States. That is evident, but recently the exchange rate, particularly the Korean exchange, Korean won against US dollar has been moved, I believe, is quite independent of the fundamental of the economic situation. Just a very transitory and a very temporary cash flow or capital flow out of the Korea and inside into the Korea. That matters a lot. That determines the fluctuation of the volatility of the exchange rate. Therefore, I believe that the decrease of the federal funds rate in the U.S. does not have much impact on Korean economy. But I would like to say the Korean economy should be more concerned about inside the domestic demand and domestic economy much more. So focus on some portfolio diversification of the international trade and reduce our economy's dependence on the reliance on some international trade. That is one way to overcome. And then Bank of Korea should decrease the interest rate by as much as 25 basis points, even though our economy has shown the CPI is very low. Even the month-on-month consumer price index has been negatively decreased, showed negative numbers. So some price pressure may not be the major threat, but currently our economy is lackluster of the growth rate. Even though the growth rate of the GDP has shown 1.3%, that is mostly supported by some front loading of the export products to the United States and other countries before the brunt of the tariff uncertainty has been because of the tariff uncertainty. But right now the uncertainty has been removed. Therefore, our Bank of Korea and our government should focus more on the domestic economic issues.
Right, and staying on that domestic economic issue, the Bank of Korea said it'll purchase 1.5 trillion Korean won. That's around $1 billion worth of government bonds, and this is the first time in 3 years since the pandemic that they're doing this, right? The central bank said this is to better respond to rising interest rate volatility. What's behind this move, and what impact will this have on the market?
Yeah, they have issued a $500 million US dollar and a 10-year bond and the 30-year bonds of $500 billion. So the yield has remained 3.95 percentage points. So that is, I believe it is modest. But thinking about current our economic situation, even though unemployment rate is 2.2%, employment rate has been stabilized around 63.4%. So that implies that our economy needs some, even though unemployment rate is low, but that is primarily due to some old labor workers, temporary job, and some low wage income. So unemployment rate is not some credible indicator rightly describe the current Korean economic situation. So some weakness and the weakening of the purchasing power of the consumers in domestic economy, that is a matter of concern, should be a matter of concern, and it should be put forth to shape up our government policy. So clearly the issuance of the Korean government bond to raise the US dollars is to be used some kind of a preparation for the further depreciation or some kind of a fluctuation, volatility of the exchange rate should be attenuated, mitigated because of these activities. And let me point out the possibility of the involvement of the National Pension Service to have they have a hedging, try to have a hedging and against Korean won against the dollar. That could help alleviate the burden of the exchange rate. Sudden change could be mitigated.
I see. I guess we'll have to hope that resolves the current economic issues that we have here in South Korea. All right, Professor Song, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for your insight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
South Korea added 225,000 jobs in November compared to the same month last year. According to the Ministry of Data and Statistics on Wednesday, the total number of employed people stood at 29.04 million 6,000 last month. The increase was driven by the health and social welfare services sector, which added 281,000 jobs on year. However, key industries continue to show weakness, with employment in the manufacturing sector falling by 41,000 and the construction down by 131,000, marking 17 and 19 consecutive months of job losses, respectively. While the overall employment rate has risen by 0.2 percentage points on year, employment for those aged 15 to 29 dipped by 1.2 percentage points in the same period, losing 177,000 jobs. In other news, interest in the 2026 Pyongyang International Marathon, scheduled for April 5th, appears to be surging quickly. Beijing-based Korea Tours reported that all 500 tour spots sold out in less than 5 hours after sales opened. The agency is trying to secure more slots and is asking runners to join a waiting list. The tour will depart from Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenyang, offering 4 distances from the full 42-kilometer race to shorter 10 and 5-kilometer runs. The event is also open to participants with disabilities, including wheelchair users and visually impaired runners. Korea Tours notes that holders of South Korean, United States, Malaysian, and Japanese passports, along with members of the press, are barred from attending. The race began in 1981 to mark the April 15th birthday of Kim Il-sung. Special exhibitions featuring the artwork of Korean Catholic priest Kim Il-jung, best known for his unique approach to stained glass, are taking place in Seoul until the end of this month. His works have long stood out for their distinct style, setting them apart from traditional stained glass art. Our culture correspondent Park Geon-woo takes us there for a closer look.
Vividly colored paint on glass that seems to tell a story or a poem. This is how Catholic priest and artist Kim Il-jung has worked for decades, using oil pigments and brushes to create colors as radiant and transparent as light itself. His pieces look slightly different from traditional stained glass that's typically assembled by joining small pieces of colored glass together with lead. 2 special exhibitions, Poetry of Light and Light for Life, now running through this Christmas in 2 separate museums in Seoul, offer rare opportunities to appreciate Kim's work close up, including several being shown for the first time. A notable fact is that all the artwork on display is deliberately left untitled for a good reason. Behind me are Kim's latest artworks, which are also left intentionally untitled, allowing each viewer to step in with no preconceptions, just a pure personal encounter with the light and color before them.
I've been going through a dark period, feeling trapped. So I was finding a way to release some of that pressure, and this exhibition helped me out. It reminded me of a crane taking flight, so if I could name the piece, I'd call it Rise.
Although Kim is well known for his works on glass, his artistic practice extends to a variety of media, including canvas. And one remarkable characteristic of his work is the fusion of East and West.
European audiences say his art feels completely different from typical abstract or figurative works. The empty spaces reflect what influenced him since childhood, and he often uses thick calligraphy brushes along with vivid Western-style colors. These elements give his art a truly unique texture.
Kim's works throughout the years have been installed in around 50 cathedrals across Europe, including Chartres Cathedral. Now at 85 years old and living with hearing loss, he continues to work passionately, currently in France and Korea, showing no signs of slowing down. Though his pieces remain untitled, the emotions and reflections they evoke continue to illuminate those who stand before them, and perhaps that in the end is the very title he intended. Park Geon-woo, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. In Europe, Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelenskyy has again ruled out giving up any territory to Russia, saying he has, quote, no legal or moral right to do so. His comments on Monday came as Ukraine prepares to send a revised peace plan to the White House after weekend talks between U.S. and Ukrainian negotiators produced no agreement. Zelenskyy met UK, French, and German leaders in London in what was widely viewed as a show of support amid concerns that Washington may back a deal requiring major concessions. He said Kyiv's updated proposal could be submitted as early as Tuesday. Meanwhile, Russia claims new gains along the Eastern Front, which Ukraine disputes. In The Hague on Tuesday, the International Criminal Court sentenced a Sudanese militia leader to 20 years in prison for war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Sudan's Darfur region more than 20 years ago. Ali Muhammad Ali Abd al-Laman, also known as Ali Couché, was convicted in October on 27 counts, including murder, torture, and orchestrating rape, with judges saying he personally beat detainees to death with an axe. Prosecutors had sought life sentence, while the defense argued the 76-year-old was misidentified. The ruling concludes the ICC's first trial on the Darfur conflict, which began after militias known as the Janjaweed were mobilized to crush a 2003 rebellion. In Indonesia, a fire in an office building in Jakarta on Tuesday afternoon killed at least 22 people. Authorities say the blaze began on the first floor of the 7th-floor building after a battery exploded inside a drone company's workspace, sending flames and thick smoke upward. Most victims were women, including one pregnant woman, and police believe they died from smoke inhalation. Firefighters used aerial ladders to rescue trapped workers. In Australia, a social media ban for under-16s has come into effect. The ban blocks under-16s from accessing 10 major platforms, including Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. It took effect at midnight local time on Wednesday. Companies now face fines of $33 million if they fail to remove under-16 accounts. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says the law is needed to protect children from predatory algorithms, but tech firms warn it may push teens to unregulated spaces.
It felt chillier this morning, but actually temperatures were a couple of degrees higher than yesterday. Temperatures will sit above the seasonal average with mild westerly winds. Then daytime temperatures will jump nicely, climbing above 10 degrees Celsius in many regions with decent air quality. Seoul will see more clouds rolling in this afternoon with a high of 10 degrees Celsius. Daejeon, Daegu, Gyeongju will be getting up to 12 degrees. Then tomorrow, rain and snow are in the forecast nationwide. Most regions will see 5 to 10 millimeters of rainfall, but snow is expected for the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province with up to 10 centimeters expected. It is a welcome bit of moisture for the East Coast, where long-lasting dry alerts continue. Then tomorrow's wet weather will bring freezing air to the country on Friday morning, with more wintry precipitation in the forecast across Korea through the weekend.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.